The composer talks about this last one. You remember Jenny talking about this piece being sort of the meeting point between religion and science, or the science of the universe and all these sort of things. And so the next movement, which is called Hawking, about Stephen Hawking, admittedly is the least religious of the group, according to the most least religious of the suite, which he thinks is probably in keeping with Professor Hawking's wishes. So around the time of the beginning of the composition for this movement, Jim was trying to figure out how to write it, and he found a publication indicating that sound waves were being detected during the process of matter collapsing into black holes. The resulting sound waves produced a frequency, and if there could be eardrums there to detect them, they would resemble a low drum, a low beating drum, and wanted to replicate that in the piece, which you'll hear played by our marvelous tubist here. I won't spoil the surprise, but see if you can pick it out in the tuba part, this low beating drum, which sort of gets faster throughout the piece until it becomes more like a heartbeat. In the meantime, the solo, which is a flugelhorn, which I'm playing, is a line that sort of continually reaches up like it's trying to escape, and then is pulling, is only to be pulled or dragged down, kind of like matter collapsing into a black hole. And so do the accompanying instruments, move in and out of texture, slowly drifting downward to a very low registers, and then disappearing on and off, on and off. As the piece moves on, the accompaniment parts get louder and louder and start to sort of cover the solo part with these clusters or sort of nebulous tonality. So Stephen Hawking was a cosmologist and a theoretical physicist, and was a professor of mathematics for a while, and nearly 30 or 40 years at Cambridge, and then professor of cosmology and all these sort of research things. He's got a number of books. A Brief History of Time, I think, is his most famous book, so if you haven't read it, and you're the type who'd be able to understand it, I'd suggest that. Born in 1942, he is maybe the second most famous case of somebody getting ALS, or what we call Lou Gehrig's disease, which is the only reason I'd say he's the second, because they named it after Lou Gehrig. And spent, from the age of 21 to the end of his life, in his 70s, I've now forgotten, in his 70s, in a wheelchair. His body slowly retreating into himself, his nerves and everything just sort of quitting towards the outside of his body. And he spoke with the aid of a computer, initially with a handheld joystick, and then by the end of his life with a single muscle in his cheek, he was able to speak with this computer. And I'm typically a proponent of not looking for extra things in music that the composer didn't necessarily put there. But I find that as a soloist, finding myself getting more and more buried throughout the piece by these louder and louder accompaniments might also represent a brilliant mind getting buried within this sort of struggle, this disease, this issue that he had. And I think that is the sort of the religious part of this. Someone who loved what he did, or was so fascinated with what he was studying, that even in a wheelchair and with no ability to take care of himself, he continued with what he would do. So here is Hawking. And don't forget, you got to look for the heartbeat in the tuba. It's very fun.